On a cold, quiet, and rainy night of April in 2001, one Jamin Mukobero crept out of bed, picked up a machete, and brutally hacked and murdered his entire family. This is the story that shook an entire nation and left a whole village grieving. This is the first episode of Murdered by Family, and this is the story of Jamin Mukobero. Hi guys, welcome to the Ayera Faith channel. I am Ayera, and if you're a returning viewer, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. In fact, I salute you. And if you're a new viewer, please consider subscribing to my channel because my content is amazing. Yes, it is. And yes, please consider subscribing to the channel because it does help me out. For real, I'm not going to lie, it does help me out. So subscribe, comment, like, share my content, and please do not forget to also hit the notification bell so that every time I post, you guys are notified. So today I'm going to shift gears a little. I'm going to make a different upload from my previous ones. I am starting a new series called Murdered by Family. Yes, murder. And it's going to be focusing on true crime, mostly murders. Yeah, unfortunately, but yeah, they do happen. And this is actually my first episode. And so, yeah, let's see how it goes. And yes, so if you're a fan of true crime, or the dark, the strange, and the mysterious, please consider subscribing again because I am truly here for you. And yeah, so without further ado, oh, by the way, I'm sorry about the painting in the back. It just dropped, just fell down, and I have nowhere of there's nowhere to put it, like literally. So it's there. Yeah, it's just there. I hope it doesn't take away from the video in any way or distract you in any way. So without further ado, let's begin. So our story today takes me back home and takes us back to Kakamega County, that is county number 37. It's a very green county located in the western part of Kenya, whose current governor is Mr. Fernandez Baraza. Kakamega has a population of about 1.8 million people, and it's mainly populated by the Luya tribe. Not to say this is the only tribe in Kakamega County. No, we have other tribes like the Kikuyu, the Kalenjin, the Kisii, and the Luo. Thanks to devolution, the county has really grown. We currently have a level 5 hospital with the capacity to take around 5,000 beds. That is the Kakamega Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. Sorry, I can't even speak. What the hell is wrong with me? Not the Kakamega Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. No, it is just the Kakamega Teaching and Referral Hospital. Yes. So Kakamega has also institutions of higher learning. For example, a nationally recognized university, which is the Masinde Mulilo University of Agriculture and Technology. It also has a national school, which is the Kakamega High School. The county, fondly known as the Green Jewel, has a number of attractions that see it get visited by tourists both locally and internationally, year in, year out. For instance, we have the Kakamega Forest, which is a rainforest, and in it possesses different unique species of trees, birds, and monkeys, and also snakes. We have the Rondo Retreat Center, which is a very huge garden where people can go and just relax, have fun, talk, bond, and create connections. We also have the river Isiuhu, which is one of the major rivers in the area. I have a story about that river, by the way, but that's a story for another day. We also have the Ihongomrwe, that is the crying stone, locally known as the Ihongomrwe. This is a 40-meter high stone that has the build of a human, like a body and a head, and has water running from its head to the bottom, hence the name Crying Stone. It used to be a very sacred site for the local community in the olden days. Our ancestors used to worship at the foot of the stone. Apart from that, one of my favorite attractions in Kakamega County, and I'm saying this because this is actually a practice that is from my tribe, my specific tribe. You know, the Luo tribe has many sub-tribes, but my specific sub-tribe practices this. That is the bullfighting. I love it. I love bullfighting so much. And there's talk of commercializing it and actually building like official arenas to have the bullfighting in, because as it is now, currently we excuse me, we don't have an official arena for bullfighting. We have the stadium, the Buhungu Stadium, but there is no official arena that is officially designated for bullfighting. So that is in the works. But I love this sport. There's a lot of adrenaline rush, and this is also sacred tradition. That is just a little bit about Kakamega County. So Jamin Mukobero was born in 1958 in Shibuya village within Kakamega County in the Republic of Kenya. Jamin was born to a peasant farmer, and it was quite a large family, which his parents struggled to provide for. His father was a cash crop and food crop farmer, and his mother was a housewife. She used to help her husband in the farm, but that's it. She didn't have any occupation of her own. And Jamin's life as a child was quite difficult because there was always not enough to eat. He couldn't even finish school because his parents were unable to educate him. So at the age of 13, 14, Jamin decided to learn masonry because he wanted to become a mason. And this was also a good career for him because he had a passion in this area. He had a skill, an inborn skill for it. So he learned very quickly, and he started working very quickly. And the people in the area would describe Jamin as someone who was very skillful and someone whose work was very appreciated by everyone around. So Jamin got married quite a bit early. He met a beautiful young lady by the name of Susan, and they married and had kids. And at the time of the incident happening, they had 8 kids, and there was a 9th kid on the way. People in the area would describe Jamin as someone who was very quiet, very polite, someone who was peace-loving, and would rarely cause any trouble. So this is why this was such a surprise for people in the area, because he was not the kind of person to do what he did. On this fateful day, that was the April 29th of 2001, Jamin and his pregnant wife and his 8 children had dinner by the candlelight, and then they retired to bed. The boys retired to the Isimba, which is their bedroom, their building, their sleeping area next to or adjacent to the main house, because of course, like we know, in our African culture, if a boy gets to 10 years old, he cannot sleep in the same house as the parents, because then they are considered men, fully grown men, and they're circumcised. So once you're circumcised, you move to the Isimba, which is a small hut that your parents built for you adjacent to the main house. So the boys retreated there. His daughter, his 17-year-old daughter, went to the neighbor's house, who was her aunt, married to her father's brother, Jamin's brother, because she was spending the night there. And Jamin and his wife and the rest of the kids proceeded to bed in the main house. In the wee hours of this rainy night, Jamin got out of bed. He crept around the house, picked up a machete, and hacked his wife to death. Reports said that he cut her a total of 15 times, mainly in the head, the neck, and the throat. And he finally beheaded her and dismembered her, separated her head from her body. Jamin then proceeded to the hut where his boys were sleeping, 3 of his sons, and he proceeded to hack them to death. Reports say that they could not count the amount of times Jamin cut up his sons, but just like he did his wife, his pregnant wife earlier, he cut off the heads of his sons. Jamin then proceeded outside the door and in the rain, covered in blood, and proceeded to knock on his brother's door in the middle of the night, the same brother where his daughter was spending the night. And he told them that his wife had fallen ill and his wife needed to be rushed to the hospital. So his concerned brother, of course, rushed to the door, pulled open the door, and met with Jamin covered in blood, and his eyes bloodshot. He was looking crazy, and in a manic and murderous rage, Jamin cut up his brother, cut up his daughter, cut up 3 of his sisters-in-law, cut up his nephew, cut up his niece, and all injuries were the same. He hit the head, the neck, and the throat. So he moved from house to house. There was too many people screaming, and so the neighbors were waking up. The neighbors were wondering what is happening. They were waking up and coming to check on the family. They were coming to the boma, to the homestead. And so Jamin got scared, he got afraid, and he ran and hid in the maize plantation. On the morning of April 30th, 2001, a country woke up to shocking news with a mourning village, and there was just one question in mind. Why? They knew who, but why? Why did this person do this to his own family, his own flesh and blood? People he loved, people he grew up with, his own children, his pregnant wife. Why? The police had been called. They arrived. They were assembling body parts, not knowing what body part belonged to who. A head here, an arm there, a leg there. And I remember I think I was around 6 or 5 years old. But I remember hearing this news, and I remember understanding the gravity of the situation, even though I was young, just based on my parents' reaction or the adults' reaction. From their reaction, I understood that this was a very, very serious matter. And although at that age I didn't really understand murder, but I understood death. I knew people die, and I knew what it meant. And I remember I was confused because everyone was saying this was the father, the man of the house, who did this. And I remember I was confused, and I would look at my father, my dad. My dad is very loving, very gentle, and I couldn't imagine him doing such a thing to us. In fact, God forbid, it will not happen. It will never happen. But I remember I couldn't reconcile the fact that a dad could do this to his kids and then go as far as attacking his brother, his brother's wives, his nieces and nephews. I just couldn't understand. So a manhunt was on for Jamin because no one could find him. No one knew where he was. And upon searching the maize plantation just near his homestead, they found him there. But he was in a bad state, not from being hurt himself physically, no. He had apparently taken rat poison in an attempt to commit suicide and kill himself. So he was arrested and taken to hospital and treated. All this while he's in hospital, everyone was wondering, why did he do it? How could he do this? Why did he do this? We need to know why he did this. And while in hospital, he was also taken for a psych evaluation, a psych eval. And he was taken to Mathare Hospital in Nairobi, and also a second one done in Kakamega Hospital. And both reports came back positive. This guy was sane, was not insane. The reports determined that during the murder, he was sane. After the murder, he's still sane. He could remember each and everything that happened. He could remember who he killed first, how he killed them. It's not like he blacked out on anything. He wasn't angry. There was no quarrel with his wife that night. There was no quarrel with his extended family. But still he did it. He committed these horrific crimes. And the people, one of his brothers who survived, his name is Mboya. I remember him speaking to the news, and he told the news reporters that he couldn't recognize his brother because he saw him killing his wife. He saw Mboya saw Jamin killing his wife. And he came to intervene, of course, to save his wife. But he said when Jamin turned to look at him, he couldn't recognize him. His eyes, it was like an animal. It was like Jamin was not there anymore. This was a completely different being. He said he was not human and he couldn't see Jamin. This was something else. And he described the killings as a manic episode. It was a rampage, a murder rampage. And he was just cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting non-stop. But his blows were concentrated on every victim. He concentrated on the head, neck, and throat, on every victim. And he made sure to cut their heads off on every victim. So Mboya says when he tried to save his wife, and Jamin turned and tried to attack him, so he fled, and Jamin followed him, but he was about to catch up, but thank God he slipped and fell. So Mboya was able to run and ran all the way to the stream, the river down there, and he ended up spending the night there. So back to Jamin, he's arrested, he's in hospital, he's well, psych evaluation has come back, he's doing well. He was sent during the incident, after, and even before the incident. So he's arraigned in court. And when Jamin was asked why he committed these horrific murders, his response was that his brother was trying to grab the piece of land that his father had left him. So in order to stop him from stealing his piece of land, he had to kill him. But then again, this doesn't make sense, because if you want to stop your brother from stealing your piece of land, and therefore you decide to commit murder, then why murder his family? Why murder his wife and his 3 boys and his daughter, and not to talk of his unborn child? If the issue was your brother, why kill your family, and why start with your family? And then when he was confronted with these questions during interrogation, he changed his story and said he had such a big family. Like I said, he had 8 kids and a 9th on the way, and he was unable to fend for them, to feed them, and he was finding it very difficult and very stressful to feed his entire family. What? So he decided to murder them. But then again, this begs the question, if the problem is your family, it's too big. I'm not saying you should murder your family because you are unable to provide for them, no. But if, let's say, for example, this is the reason he committed these murders. I'm not saying there is any justifiable reason for anyone to commit murder. No, there is no justifiable reason for anyone to murder anyone else. But let's just for a moment consider this excuse that Jamin was giving. He was saying the family was too big and there was too much stress and pressure on him to provide, and he therefore was. Then why kill his brothers and his sisters-in-laws and his nephews and nieces if the problem was the family, the size of the family? Why not just kill his family and stop there? Why go to other homes in the homestead and murder his brother, his 3 sisters-in-laws, his niece, his nephew? Why do that? So when he was confronted with this again, surprise, surprise, Jamin claimed he was not guilty. He now said someone else did it or something else did it, but not him. And mark you, he still says that to date. To date, Jamin still claims that he was innocent, despite the many witnesses that were there, like his brother Mboya, his brother Gideon, because he killed 9 people, yes, but he wounded only 6. He wounded 6 people. So there were 6 witnesses to his crime. But besides that, he still says he did not do it. He denies it all. So there was a third explanation given as to why this might have happened, and this was not given by Jamin himself. It was given by Jamin's mother. Jamin's mother came out and said 40 years earlier, that is 40 years from 2001, Jamin's uncle, which means her brother, Jamin's uncle had murdered his wife and his 3 children in the exact same manner. He had dismembered his wife and cut off her head, and also dismembered his children and cut off their heads. And his mom said when this happened in the Luya traditional culture, when something as big as a tragedy like this happens, like let's say there's murder, it's considered an abomination, and it's considered a curse on the family, and also there is a curse on the land where it happened. So there needs to be some rituals, like the Luya traditional rituals done, so that the spirits on that piece of land and the curse on that family may be chased away, and the same thing would not reoccur in future. The same thing would not happen in future. So there needed to be a ritual that would be done. It is still done until today. I know of them. So the mom says this ritual was not done. This ritual was not carried out. The elders were not called, and no actions were taken to cleanse the land and to cleanse the family and to lift the curse. So the mom says this is the reason why Jamin did what he did, because the family was still cursed, and the same thing that his uncle did 40 years ago reoccurred 40 years later through Jamin himself. Because Jamin, the excuses, the things, the reasons he gave for committing the murders do not make sense at all. Family feud over land, no, that is no reason to kill your brother, almost his entire family, and half of your own family, more than half in fact. He said his family, the family was too big, and it was stressful, he couldn't provide for all of them, but that is no reason to kill them, number one. Number two, you cannot kill your brother and his wife and your nephews and nieces because you can't feed your family. Those two are not connected. So his mother gave this explanation. I don't know what you think. Please comment and tell me what you think on these three possible explanations on why he did this. He committed this horrific crime. And you tell me what you think. In my opinion, I think the mother's the mother's explanation is much more probable than the other two that Jamin gave. Much more probable, because I have seen things like this happen. If something happens and that is an abomination that would create a bounding curse on a family, because curses are real, family curses are real, curses on individuals are real, curses on companies, on objects, they are real. We cannot sit here and deny they are real, they do happen, and there is some things that you need to do to save yourself from that curse. Either maybe if it's cursed object, maybe go to a priest, they pray for you, they uncurse the object and bind out the demon that is attached to that object or place or person. So I don't know, Jamin might have been possessed at the moment of committing those murders, but that's not to say that he should be let free, because he still committed them. And needless to say, Jamin was sentenced to life in prison. First sent to Kakamega prison, then transferred to Kodiaga prison in Kisumu, where he is until death. His family, in the year 2018, there was a rumor that he would be released on a presidential pardon, and his family, the remaining ones at least, strongly came out and said that they do not want to see him, which is expected, which is natural. They said if he were to be released on a presidential pardon, he cannot come back home, because that is no longer their home. They don't consider it his home. And I don't think if Jamin was released, he would even go home, because once you've committed such a horrific crime against your own family, I don't think he would even go home or even want to go home. So just as a side note, his family was buried, his children were buried in the compound where they died, but his wife, according to Luya tradition and customs, was buried in her father's home where she grew up. This is customary for people who have been killed by their kin. So just to give tribute to the people who unfortunately lost their lives during this horrible and senseless and insane act of Jamin Mukobero. He had 8 kids, like I said, a 9th one on the way, and he killed 4 of his kids. So I'm going to mention their names out of respect, and also their ages, for those that I could find their ages, and their relation to Jamin. So number 1 is Susan Mukobero, who was his wife. Edgar Alusiola Mukobero, who was his 11-year-old son. Evans Ashiwere Mukobero, who was his 15-year-old son. Fanis Ingasia Mukobero, who was his 17-year-old daughter. Oscar Asiema Mukobero, who was his 13-year-old son. Agri Akweyu, who was his nephew, his brother's son. Felicitas Hasiala, who was his sister-in-law. Felicitas died later in on May 15th while she was in a coma at Mukumu Hospital in Kakamega. She was fighting her injuries, but unfortunately she lost the battle and is deceased. There's Hannah Katenje, who was also his sister-in-law, his other brother's wife. And there is Linian Matais, who is also his sister-in-law and his other 3rd brother's wife. The ones that were wounded were 6 in total. The ones that were killed were 9 in total. Together with the unborn baby, would say 10. So this is the list of the 6 that were wounded. Dennis Buchika, his 13-year-old son. Ida Mwenje, his 7-year-old niece. Frida Alusa Kademi. Joan Ambuone, Gideon Ingasa, his 62-year-old brother at the time. And Patrick Manda, his 22-year-old nephew. So, guys, that is the story of Jamin Mukobero, Jamin Muchika Mukobero, and the horrific murders that he committed. Please share your comments, your thoughts on this case, and anything that maybe you know that I might have left out, please share in the comment box. And while you share something that I might have left out, please include the source, because I need to reference. Thank you for watching, guys, and stay tuned for another episode of Murdered by Family, coming up very, very soon. County has a population of about 1.8 million people. Its current governor is Mr. Wycliffe. Wycliffe. So our murder story today takes me back home, but takes you to... So our murder story today takes me back home, takes us back to county number 37, that is Kakamega County located in the western part of Kenya. It's a green county whose current governor is Mr. Fernandez Baraza. Okay,